What on guys, Commander here. Welcome to a new video where I'm going to be showing you how I get my models from Battlefront 2 into FBX files, which I use for then either Substance Painter or Unreal Engine. Now, this is going to be quite a quick, concise video because there isn't really much to it, but I'm going to go through in as much detail as I can possibly give you, right? So it's quite simple. So all you really need is this Frosty Mod Editor, right? Now the link to download that will be the first link in the description down below, one of the first links in the description down below. When you go onto that website, there'll be two different versions. There will be a mod manager and mod editor, right? You want the Frosty editor, right? Because the mod manager is for pre-made mods you can load into actual Battlefront 2 into the game. That's how you load mods. If you want a tutorial on that, let me know and I'll do a tutorial on that, because that's even simpler than what I'm going to do today. But the mod editor is what allows you to see all the files for Battlefront 2 and extract them as you need. What you do is you download it. It will download in a RAR or zip file. You need to extract it and it will open up like this, right? Now what you need is the Frosty editor.exe. Double click that and it should open, and what it'll do, I'll configure in a little bit, it will show you select the configuration. Now I've got Star Wars Battlefront 2 here because I've already configured it. You obviously won't, because it doesn't auto detect. So what you need to do is you need to go to new, and this will also work for any games made using the Frosty launcher. So whether it be Battlefield, Battlefront, there's another one, there's other, I think FIFA works as well. I think no, because FIFA's not made in Frosty, I don't know. But any game that's made in Frosty will work for this, right? So what you need to do is go to your file location where Battlefront 2 is downloaded. So this is where the file track thing for my Battlefront 2 is located, and you need to do battlefront2.exe. Don't do the trial one because that doesn't work. So Battlefront 2.exe, and obviously I've already got it in the configuration, so that's fine. But if you don't, it will show up here. You then double click it. If it asks you to load the SDK, all you need to do is you need to open up Battlefront 2, the actual game, while the mod editor is configuring. So it'll show up with a little box saying you know, load SDK or something. But while that's open at the same time, open up Battlefront 2, and then when it gets to the main menu, go back into the mod editor where it's configuring, and it will automatically work itself, and it should say okay, and then it will open up what we've got here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to extract and format a clone trooper from Battlefront 2. Here you got literally every single file you can possibly find for Battlefront 2. Everything that Battlefront 2, all the assets that Battlefront 2's got are in here. It goes from simple things like building characters are easy, because all you need to do is go into characters. You've got all the body parts here, and you've also got, like, you know, light side, Imperial, and they all the different heads, and they go together relatively simply. But it's when you get into building environments and things like that, things get a bit complicated. But I'm only going to do simple things just to show you, because the process is exactly the same as far as extracting models and extracting textures. It's just the locations where each of the different things are is a bit more complicated with things like environments and stuff. What we need to do is we need to go into Light to find the clone trooper, Assault Prequel 01, and then we've got the helmet mesh. Now all the different helmet meshes are already here. So this is the phase 2 clone helmet, obviously, but we've also got the that's the body, that's the clone body that we'll use. And we've also got phase 1 helmet. We've also got the I think it's a Bark Trooper, and that's the ARF Trooper as well, right? But all we need for this is we just need the body and the phase 2. We also need to go into body parts, and I think it's gloves 5. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, gloves 5, which is the gloves that go with this body. Now you can mix and match things a little bit with, so like you can put, like, let's say gloves 2 on this body because they all use the same skeleton. Well, as long as they use all the same skeleton, you'll be absolutely fine. But as far as model clipping is concerned, where the actual model will show up inside, visually inside, and like collide with the model that it's attached to, may find a few little issues there. But if you're willing to get away to do with that, that's fine. But that's what will happen. But you can mix and match them to a certain extent. These are all the parts that we need. So what we need to do is we need to select the objects that we want. We need to go click export. We need to go skeleton, and we need to go characters, rigs, humanoids, and then walrus human male, and click export. And then I'll just go chuck it on my desktop because it's just the easiest place I can find it. And we need to do that for each one of them individually. Right, there we go. Now that's the models done. Now what we need to do is we need to do the textures. Now, with the gloves specifically, the gloves, this particular set of gloves has got 2 different sets. This one, which is, if I take out the alpha channel, this is the first order gloves. But this one here is the clone trooper gloves. So they're all black, as you can see, right? So we want that. And if we click export, now what you want to do, I'll show you with the helmet because it's a bit easier to show with the helmet. But what you need to do is you need to export them as a TGA file. And I'll explain why a bit later. But you need to export all the CS maps. It doesn't necessarily matter too much with the weathering and the normal ambient occlusion maps, but for the texture ones, the CS map, need to export them as TGA. And again, I'll show you later why you need to do that and why it's important. So this is the normal map, so I'd export that and put that in there. That's the weather map. If you want the weather map, then that's fine, you can export that as well, but I don't particularly know how they work, and because I'm retextured things in Unreal in Substance Painter anyway, I don't really see the point in using weather maps, but you might find a use of using weather maps, but that's your choice. Then the clone trooper body, if we go into the textures, body, that's the body for the clone trooper. Export that as TGA, then click save. You've also got to be a bit careful because if you put, that's the phase 1 clone trooper helmet, and they do get a bit confused, and it might get a bit confusing because they're not, the labels are not particularly like ideally should be linked to, like, you know, what 01 should be phase 1 and 02 should be phase 2, but they're not, which is a bit weird. But anyway, so that's phase 2 helmet export. Right, so that's all the stuff that we need out of Frosty all done, I think. I'm pretty sure. We'll come back if not. Is open up. Now, you can do this in Maya, 3ds Max, Blender if you want to. I'm going to use 3ds Max just because that's what I know that I'm used to. And we're going to use that to assemble the models that we've got. So we've got all the different models here. We're just going to use 3ds Max just to assemble it all together. Again, you could use Maya or Blender if you want to, but 3ds Max is the one that I use, and I know it works perfectly well in, because if I did it in Blender, I'll be going through, like, this video would be double the length of me recorded just to try and troubleshoot things going wrong. I know this works exactly as it's supposed to. Right, so now if you go file import, and then where my desktop is, so we'll go body first, then click OK. Might take a while to import, depending on how quick your computer system is. Mine's quite a good system, so it shouldn't take too long. There we go. Now, as you can see, it looks a bit weird, right? Now that's just because when you export the model, it exports all the LODs, right? Now if you don't know what LODs are, essentially what it means is that, I'm not sure if you ever noticed when you're playing a video game that models that you see further away from you look a lot less detailed than ones that are closer to you. That's because game developers, to keep the system resources needed to play the game down and keep it as low as possible, things that are further in the distance, they use lower quality models so that it still looks like what it's supposed to be, but it's not using up the same amount of resources as something that is highly detailed in front of your face. That's literally all it is. Battlefront 2 doesn't separate it, so we need to separate it ourselves. So just to show you just quickly, as you can see, it's a really, like, rubbish model, right? But that's why we need to get rid of them. So what we need to do is you need to click all of these, get rid, and then get rid of that collective thing like that. And as you can see, we've got the full quality model here. Right, so now we do the same with the helmet and the gloves. Right, so if we go phase 1 helmet, click OK, import, like that. Again, as you can see, still got all the different LODs, but that's fine. Click delete. Right, there you go, got it all working. The problem was I picked the wrong skeleton when I was exporting, so don't pick the right skeleton, it all goes together perfectly fine now. Right, so this is the model that you should have once it's all been assembled, right? Now, you've got the different parts of this mesh. Now, what we're going to do to start off with is we're going to apply the materials in the 3D editor, right? Now, there's a specific reason why, but it only applies really if you're using Substance Painter, right? Now, that's because when you import something in Substance Painter, it classifies anything with the same texture set as a model, right? So whereas, let's say, Unreal Engine will separate models, or 3ds Max or Blender will separate models between their different naming convention sets, right? Whereas Substance Painter does it within the texture set. So let's say you've got 2 models that have got the exact same texture attached to them, they'll combine that into, they'll see, that software will see that as one model. It's a bit annoying, but it's an easy workaround, right? So what we can get is, if we get all of our texture maps, let's go body, helmet, and gloves, like so. Go body like that, helmet like that, and then gloves like that. See, easy, just like that. Right, so that's what it should look like. And then you can export that by going all export, clone complete, let's say, and save it. All the default settings should work, and it's easy as that. Pretty much is as easy as that. Open up Substance Painter, and I'm going to show you what the reason why you needed to export the texture maps in TGA instead of PNG. So I'll be back once I've opened Substance Painter. Right guys, so we're in Substance Painter now, and I've just got the helmet for the clone tree because that's really all we're going to need for what I'm trying to show you. So here we've got two different textures. This one is the PNG one, and this one is the TGA one, right? Now, if I import show the PNG one, it looks a bit faded, right? And the same will happen if I put in the TGA one, right? It looks okay, it looks decent enough, but it is still quite faded, right? So what I'm going to do instead, now this actually isn't too bad as far as the actual model is concerned, but it does show up, especially when using like the glove models or the phase 1 helmet model. It definitely shows up as being very, very faded. It's a bit of a nightmare to work with. But what you need to do is you need to open up a photo editing program, specifically one that allows you to see the different color channels of your image. Let's say Photoshop, which is what I'm using. And essentially what you can do is you can see the different color channels, so RGB, but it also allows you to see the alpha channel. Now, you can only see the alpha channel if you have PNG, if you have TGA exported. You can't do it with PNG, you can't do it with JPEG, it has to be TGA. Right, so if you go into so that's the alpha channel. If you click that, then right click and click delete, that gets rid of the alpha channel. Right, now at face front, it doesn't look like it's probably done a lot, right? But what it's done is it's taken away that faded look, and then what I'm going to do, go back onto my desktop, helmet texture fix. So you can actually also already see between the two that this one looks a whole lot better than this PNG one. Right, so now export this as texture, import into project, and then go into that, and as you can see, it looks a lot better. It's a lot more solid color. Right, now you might like the one that I did before, and that's absolutely fine, but you can see that the color is a lot more solid. This is what it's meant to look like, not the faded thing that we had before. But that's the way you do it. But you have to make sure the key point in doing that is you have to make sure that you export your textures as a TGA file, especially your color. Alright guys, so I'm just interrupting my original video just to cut in with this extra little bit of footage here, because I was originally showing you how to make a normal map within Photoshop, but since then this is a new day and I've actually figured out how to do it properly that will actually work within Substance Painter, and that is using the software called Gimp. Right, a link to it will be down in the description down below, completely free, and for normal map I'm creating from Battlefront 2. Let's say it also works with like Star Wars Squadrons and whatever else. Gary's one I think it works with as well. It works like a charm and so much better than the way I would have done it in Photoshop. So essentially what you do is you find your texture and drag and drop it in, and you've got obviously the texture from before. If you go to colors, then you go to components and go to decompose. Right, and then you go color mode, RGBA, and click OK. What it will then do is it will split the maps apart, right? So you've got this grayish texture, right? What you then do is if you go to color, components, and compose, it'll open up this window again, go to RGBA, and change the blue and alpha channel to mask, and click OK. That'll create your normal map completely perfect, right? As you would use it in Unreal Engine. Now, then what you can do is you can go File, Export, and let's just go to my desktop and just go normal, fixed, GIMP. There we go, click Export, and then click Export again. And then that will create the normal map file, which we can then use inside of Substance Painter, right? And then what we can also then do is we can go back to this file, go to Colors, Components, and Compose, and then go RGBA, but instead change the red and the green values and change them to 0 instead of leave them as default. Click OK, and then what that does is that's your metallic map, which you can also use in Substance Painter if you so wish. Now I personally don't, because I leave the defaults, like as far as like texturing and like metallic and roughness as their defaults in Unreal Engine. I just paint over the top of the models. Then you go to normal fixed, import that as a texture map, click project import, stick that in there, and then go into your texture set and change that again, and that looks a lot better. That's a perfect normal map as it would show up in Unreal Engine and in Battlefront 2. So just so you're aware, I've overlaid this as before, as instead of what I was doing before, because this is the proper way to do it instead of my half-assed method that I was actually doing in the original video. So back to me inside of Substance Painter. Right, when you get it into Unreal Engine, it'll work perfectly. But that's just the basic of getting the texture into sorted. Now, I did have a tutorial on, I have got a tutorial on YouTube down in the description, that I'll link down in the description down below, about how to set up a Battlefront 2 model within Unreal Engine. I was going to do that in this video as well, but one, this video's gone on for long enough anyway, and the other reason why I'm going to show you how to do that in this video is because I've already got a video on it on my channel and saved doing the same content again, and also means you can go and watch that video if you want to. But again, I'll link it down in the description down below, as well as all the other little reference videos that connect to this video as well. If you go to texture settings and you stick your normal map into there, what you can also do, and again, this isn't going to be perfect, but it does the job enough. But if you go to bake mesh maps, now if you see any of my tutorials on Battlefront 2 before anyway, or Substance Painter with working on models anyway, you'll always know I do my bake mesh maps. But what you can do is, in the past, I've had Substance Painter auto bake my normal, but what that does is it bakes your curvature map. So what curvature is it determines where wear and tear is going to appear. But if it does it procedurally, so on its own with no information whatsoever, it does okay, but it's not ideal. So what you can do is, if you import a normal map, it will create the curvature around that normal map. So if you uncheck normal and everything except for ambient occlusion and curvature, set this to 4K, and I set my anti-aliasing to 2x2, and then click bake. It'll then bake the ambient occlusion as it would do normally, but it also bake the curvature in accordance to that normal map. Now, as you can see, it looks a bit naff. Like if I stick just a quick black mask generator metal edgeware, it's all right. Like it does the job, and you can play about with it as you need to. But it just adds that bit of extra control with it rather than it doing it procedurally, which again, Substance Painter is a really intelligent and really good software, and procedurally works really well if that's what you want to do. But if you do it via the normal map, you get that detail, and you get the metal edgeware to edge within the curves of the normal map, which is a really good thing that it does, which I think is really quite helpful. So that is what we have time for in this video here. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button for more awesome tutorial type content, whatever it is you think you might want to know. If you have any questions about anything I've done in this video, leave it in the comment section down below, and I shall get to you and help you as best as I can do. But yeah, so hope you guys have enjoyed, and I shall see you all later. Bye.